Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark Alford's Capital Recap. I'm your Congressman, Mark Alford, here to give you the latest from our nation's capital, the swamp in Washington, D.C., and what's happening in Missouri. You know, last week we held our third annual town hall tour. We covered 15 counties. We had stops all over the district talking with you, but mainly listening to you, even to those of you who vehemently disagreed with what we were doing. And of course, those of you who don't like Trump. And hey, we took the slings and arrows on that. But I want to thank everyone who came out to that. Even those of you who may be listening who are not aligned with our priorities, the American First agenda. Thanks for coming. It was an honor to listen to you. Be sure to listen to last week's episode 32, and you can get a full recap of our town hall tour. All right. It's been a busy week here in Washington. We're back to work for you in the swamp. We've got a full plate of updates and lots of good news about how House Republicans are delivering results for you. So let's start with the appropriations process, because getting the government fully funded responsibly is one of the most important things we do. In fact, that is my main priority here right now, being an appropriator, the only appropriator from Missouri. Out of the committee, by the end of the week, 10 of the 12 appropriations have now been completed. So we have 2 left to go. We passed the Financial Services General Government bill out of committee. On the floor, 3 of the 12 bills will be finished by the September 30th deadline. That's when the fiscal year ends and the government runs out of money. So this included military construction, veterans affairs, and defense. We also took up energy and water this week, and you're going to hear in just a moment from our subcommittee chairman, Chuck Fleischman of Tennessee, a good friend of mine. He talked on the House floor about how this bill will help the American people. Listen.
I am pleased to present to the committee the fiscal 2026 Energy and Water Development and Related Agencies Appropriation Bill. I'd like to thank Chairman Cole and Ranking Member DeLauro for their leadership throughout this process, and my good friend and Ranking Member of the Energy and Water Subcommittee, Marcy Kaptur, for her partnership. I'd also like to extend my appreciation to all of my colleagues for their valuable input in helping shape this bill. The fiscal 26 Energy and Water Bill demonstrates our commitment to safeguarding the United States national security, unleashing American energy dominance, and advancing our economic competitiveness in a fiscally responsible manner. The recommendation totals $57.3 billion, a decrease of $766 million below fiscal year 2025. The bill delivers strong support for our national defense and provides $25.3 billion for the National Nuclear Security Administration, prioritizing the continued modernization of the nuclear weapons stockpile and the United States Navy nuclear fleet. We continue to fulfill our legacy responsibilities to remediate contaminated sites by funding Department of Energy cleanup activities. The bill strengthens our nation's energy security by advancing American leadership in deploying new nuclear technologies and supporting the administration's efforts to make full use of our nation's vast fossil fuel resources. The bill will reduce reliance on foreign materials and secure the full supply chain of critical minerals. The bill furthers our nation's scientific and technological leadership, providing $8.4 billion for the Department of Energy's Office of Science. At the same time, the bill reduces funding by 25% across numerous other department programs, including the Applied Energy Technology offices, to ensure taxpayer resources are focused on the highest priority research and development projects. The bill also strengthens our economic competitiveness and promotes public safety, providing $9.9 billion for the Army Corps of Engineers, including full funding of the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund activities and the highest priority construction projects on the inland waterway system. Funding for the Bureau of Reclamation is prioritized to projects that increase water supply and support drought resilience. Finally, the bill includes a number of provisions to codify President Trump's executive actions to protect American values and prevent our resources and intellectual property from falling into the hands of foreign adversaries. This is a fiscally responsible bill that will strengthen our national security and advance our energy independence. I urge my colleagues to support it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
So, thank you, Chuck. We did get this passed, so we have 3 of the 12 bills passed on the House floor. House Republicans, we are committed to returning to regular order, restoring physical sanity, and advancing the America First agenda through the appropriations process, which funds our government. But we are going to need some more time to finish our work, unfortunately. Our chairman, Tom Cole, is advocating for short-term continuing resolutions. You know, if you've listened to this show before, I hate continuing resolutions. So does Tom Cole. So do most Republicans. But we don't want a government shutdown either. And that's what would happen if we don't do a short-term continuing resolution. That will give us time to get our work done. This could be paired with a few of the full-year individual appropriations bills, which I would support if they're grouped together responsibly. It takes a short-term CR at this point to avoid a government shutdown and a return to regular order. I will support it. I hope all of my colleagues are going to join me in preventing a government shutdown. The left, the media will try to blame it on the Republicans. But if it happens this time around, it will be a Schumer shutdown, okay, from the Senate. I think maybe he's got that up his sleeve. He and the Democrats want to create chaos in America. To give just a little context for you, returning to regular order, some people are, what does that mean? Well, it means each subcommittee writes its own bills. We mark it up, we vote on it, pass it out of committee, debate it on the House floor, pass it, it passes over in the Senate, and then the president signs it into law. That's the way it's supposed to work. It very rarely works that way. But it is the way we are supposed to fund our government programs without the uncertainty of these continuing resolutions. It causes unnecessary delays for critical services like veterans benefits, infrastructure projects, local energy initiatives, and defense. It's hard to start new programs. Basically, we've been living off continuing resolutions since 2024, still living off the 2024 budget numbers. That's unacceptable. Now, speaking of local impact, the defense and military construction bills are especially important to Missouri. They help make sure that funding for Fort Leonard Wood down in the southeastern part of our district in Pulaski County gets fully funded. We support our veterans programs. We maintain key readiness programs. The energy and water bill that we passed this week strengthens infrastructure projects to provide water management, flood protection, energy reliability for communities across the state, and our nuclear capabilities. The National Security Campus, which is Honeywell, you probably know as Honeywell, down in the southern part of our district on 150, part of that is funded through the energy and water bill. And so we've got to make sure that those programs, many of you listening right now work at Honeywell. We have a lot in our district who work there as well. We got to make sure that these programs are funded. Okay, now for a quick national security update. The White House just confirmed that Huntsville, Alabama, has been chosen as the new headquarters for U.S. Space Command over Colorado. This is a critical step for our defense posture. Huntsville, it really outpaced Colorado. In fact, it was chosen by those experts who did studies over Colorado, but Joe Biden wanted to keep it in Colorado for whatever reason. When I was on the Armed Services Committee last term, this was a big point of contention, but the Republicans and President Trump are winning out, giving it to Huntsville. It has the workforce. It has the strategic location that's needed for this mission. And folks, it makes sure that the U.S. maintains a competitive edge in space operations. I think it's really exciting to see real progress being made that's going to protect our great nation and create jobs in that region over Colorado. On the domestic side, crime prevention policies from the White House are showing some positive results, and there's growing talk of expanding them to additional states and communities. And we can see the crime dropping already in Washington, D.C. There have been more than 1,700 arrests, 195 illegal firearms seized. Carjackings are down 87%, which is a huge problem in Washington, D.C. Look, folks, I've said it before. Washington, D.C. especially, it should be a shining example. When people come from all over the world to Washington, D.C., heck, when you come up here, you want to feel safe. If you leave Capitol Hill and go to the outer regions of Washington, D.C., it's not safe. And President Trump has every right as a commander-in-chief, because this is a federal district, to send in National Guard troops to help local police clean up the city. And that's what they're doing. Families all over America want safe neighborhoods, right? I don't care if you live in Kansas City or down in the southeastern part of our district in the rural communities. We all want the same thing. We want safe streets. We want safe neighborhoods, safe stores to go into. These approaches are working. And I think it's time for broader implementation of this. We'll see what happens. Folks, you're listening to Mark Alford's Capital Recap. When we come back, we're going to dive into more of what we're doing on the Hill and the latest with the Epstein files. Yes, there was some movement on that this week. We'll tell you where we stand on this very important issue. I'll give you a hint. We stand for truth and transparency. Stay with us. You're listening to Mark Alford's Capital Recap. Welcome back to Mark Alford's Capital Recap. Thanks for being with us today. All right, let's get into what the House is doing on the Epstein files. You know, one thing before we start, I was very surprised on our town hall tour. We did 15 stops in 4 days. I took about 250 questions. Only 2 of them had to do with the Epstein files. I thought we were going to get a lot more. I know that no one wants to see pedophiles go free, and I think we need justice in this case. And for that justice to happen, we need truth and transparency. We had what's called a rules vote. The Rules Committee determines what gets on the House floor. And it was explained very well in our conference meeting. It takes everything in Representative Massey's proposal and strengthens it with greater transparency and, this is very important, more protection for the victims. So that's what we voted for. Unfortunately, on the House floor this week, the Democrats voted against it. They voted against truth and transparency and protecting victims by releasing the Epstein files, whatever may be in there. I still don't know if there's a technical list of people who participated in this demonic behavior, but we'll see. Now, if you're not familiar with this rules vote sets the terms for debate on the legislation and makes sure that victims' rights remain at the forefront of any bill that comes to the floor. So we may see final action before we get back to D.C. next week. So basically, here's where we are in the Epstein investigation. So far, the House Oversight Committee has issued 10 deposition subpoenas to Bill and Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Robert Mueller, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Alberto Gonzales. That committee already has some agreements in place to get written declarations and some other things to come in for these people to testify. They also issued a subpoena to the Department of Justice for Epstein-related records, and the DOJ is complying with that. They've already delivered some 34,000 pages of documents. Many of those have been released, and the Democrats are saying, well, hey, some of this is already released. Yes, but this is what the committee had asked for, and so they're releasing this information now, and more documents are coming. They also issued a subpoena to the Epstein estate with a deadline of September 8th for all the related documents and communications. That's very important. They issued a subpoena for the deposition testimony from Ghislaine Maxwell, and they scheduled former Labor Secretary, former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alexander Acosta, for a voluntary transcribed interview. And importantly, the committee they're in direct contact with Epstein survivors. So these actions, I think, really show the seriousness and the depth of the investigation. Each subpoena each interview, each document review really brings accountability and try to make sure that the victims' voices are heard. Folks, this is not about politics. This is about justice. And that's what our House Oversight Committee is delivering. Next, we want you to hear an inspiring message from the White House that was released just this week. It's 11 life-changing lessons from President Trump. Take a listen to this.
Let me share some of the biggest lessons I've learned from a lifetime spent building dreams. First, if you think that you're too young to do something great, let me tell you that you are wrong. You're not too young. In America, with drive and ambition, young people can do anything. Second of all, and very importantly, you have to love what you do. I rarely see somebody that's successful that doesn't love what he or she does. Third thing is to think big. You know, you're going to do something, you might as well think big, because it's just as hard to solve a small problem as a big problem, and it's just as much energy and everything else, except the result is going to be a smaller one. So love what you do, but think big. Fourth is work hard. Work hard. Fifth is don't lose your momentum. You just want to keep it going, and you have to know if you are losing it, you have to know when you're losing it, so maybe you stop and maybe it's time to stop. Number six, if you want to change the world, you have to have the courage to be an outsider. In other words, you have to take certain risks and do things a little bit differently. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, everybody would be successful. Number seven is to trust your instincts, common sense. You can go very far in life with common sense. Eighth, everybody should believe in the American dream. It's real, it's there, and it's right before you. Ninth, think of yourself as a winner. The power of positive thinking. In recent years, too many of our young people have really been taught to think of themselves as victims. But in America, we reject that idea that anyone is born a victim. Our heroes are the ones who take charge of their own destiny despite the odds. And next is to be an original. The old-time greats were people who had the confidence to be a little different. God only created one of you, so don't try to be someone else. Finally, and most importantly, never, ever give up. I've learned that perseverance is everything, so whatever happens, no matter where you are in life, stay optimistic and just keep pushing forward. Never let anyone tell you that something is impossible, ever, ever, ever. In America, the impossible is what we all do best.
All right, folks, we want to switch over to some of the amazing work our casework team is accomplishing in Missouri's 4th Congressional District. I want you to listen now to a 20-year military veteran who we helped get a passport. He basically spent 2 years trying to get a passport, couldn't do it on his own. We helped out. He wanted to make sure, when I was in Kansas City recently, he pulled me aside and wanted me to hear his story. And now I want you to hear his story about how our casework team helped him. Listen.
My name is Morris Cornley. I did 27 years in the military. I was trying to get my passport to go to a wedding in New Mexico, and I couldn't get it. And my supervisor down here, Tom, got me in touch with a alderman in Raymore who got me in touch with your staff, and they helped me get my passport within 6 months, and I tried 2 years to get.
And you got your passport?
Within 3 months of contacting your office, I got my passport.
Where do you live?
I live in Raymore, Missouri.
Well, thank you.
All right.
I'm honored to serve you.
All
That's
right.
what we're here for.
All right. I want to thank you because I watched you on news before you even became a senator. So I knew you. But when I found out that your office helped me and my co-worker told me you was over here, I just had to come tell you thank you.
Hey, folks, we're always working for you. We want to be your problem solvers. If you need help with a federal issue, contact us today on our website, alford.house.gov. That's alford.house.gov. You can also find our phone numbers there. And before we close out, your feedback is so valuable to us. We are trying to fight for common sense solutions in Congress. If you couldn't make it to our town hall meetings and you have a concern, call or send a message to our office at any time. alford.house.gov. If you have a concern about SNAP or Medicaid, we have a number set up called the Heartland Hotline. All you need to do is reach out, leave your name, number, and a brief description of the issue that you're facing, and we will get back to you. The Heartland Hotline, no one else in Congress is doing this, folks. But if you know someone who's getting kicked off SNAP or Medicaid in 2027 and who truly qualifies to be on those programs, we want to help. We want to fight for them. Call 816-281-6674. That's 816-281-6674. Together, we're going to make sure that Missouri stays strong. Folks, thanks for tuning in for another edition of Mark Alford's Capital Recap. We will never stop working for you. We will never stop being your problem solver. Until next time, remember, I believe in America. I believe in you. And most importantly, I believe that our greatest days are still ahead. Good day, and God bless.